Let's now talk about commands. Commands are a mechanism for your Elm application to get information in a non-functional way, to cause something to happen to the outside world. As a way to think of it, you can use a command, for instance, to send an HTTP request. You could use a command to generate a random number. You have to go outside of your Elm functions to generate a random number because generating a random number is non-functional. That is, when you return a random number, the next time you call to get a random number, you get a different random number. So that's the first example we're going to look at. We're here, and we've basically got this next random, and we're going to try to generate a random number. So it starts out as 0, and we want to generate a random number. Looking at the code we've got so far, we have standard init, update, and view. Our model is just an integer, which is the random number. And we have one message, which is make random, which is what happens when you click on next random. It just doesn't do anything right yet. Our update message, as we can see, doesn't do anything with make random. It just returns model. And then our view message actually displays the current model. Notice we're using here the piping or function chaining. And then on click, we call to make the next random number. The problem is in make random here, we just don't have any way to call some routine that says generate me a random number, because again, it would return you a different value every time you called it, and therefore update would no longer be functional because you call it with a particular value of message and model, and you might get back different return results each time you called it. So we're going to use a command. We got to make some changes. The first thing we're going to do, we actually do have a random module, and I just need to show you elm.json. We had to actually include elm/random here to make sure that dependency was included. Back to main, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to change from using sandbox to what's called element. When we are using commands, we are using element, and we need to add in another parameter, subscriptions, which are how we can get notified of things happening in the outside world. I know we're not using that yet, but we might be in the future. For instance, if we set up a timer, that would be a subscription that will be called every so often. Or if we want to know when the user is just randomly typing on their keyboard, we get notified, or if we get notified about window changing. But for now, we don't have any subscriptions. We do need to provide a function here. This is a function that takes a model and returns a subscription, and we just don't want a subscription. Again, we'll get to that in a bit. The init function, let's just kind of look if we do this. So it's going to complain because the init function, it says, is a number, and it should be a function. We should actually have a init function. Let's see. A init function will be a function that returns a combination of a model and a command parameterized on this message. Because what we're going to actually be doing is we're going to be saying a command comes in from sort of outside our application, but it comes in the form of a message. This is going to be a command that generates messages. And our init function is going to, given the flags, we want to return a combination of a model, which is just going to be 0, and any initial command we want to be created. And we don't want any initial command. Our init function, our init is actually going to be this init function. Let's just see what it thinks. And we do a save, and of course, it's complaining. So we'll just come back to that. What else do we need? The update function is going to take a message and a model and return, again, a model combination pair. Here, we'll need to return model and cmd.none. We're back to square one where we're compiling, enabling commands, but we haven't actually used any commands yet. So now what we want to do in our make random, we want to actually generate a command here. The command is going to be something that is going to cause the random number to be generated. So we're going to use a generator. Generator takes two parameters. I'm going to just kind of show it here. So what does it take? It takes a function that creates a message. The function gets given a random value and creates a MSG. And the second parameter is a random generator. It'll take this random generator, it will return a random value, it'll feed that into this function, and then that will generate a message. So at the time we call random.generate, it doesn't actually do this generation yet. It just passes that back to the Elm system, and the Elm system then has enough information to know how to create a message. First off, just make a new message here. Let's say receive random. We'll get a random number. So receive random is now a valid constructor. That is, if you use receive random like this, random 5, that is a message. Receive random by itself is a function that takes an integer and generates a receive random. So therefore, this is a valid first parameter here for what we want for random.generate. And the second thing we need is a random number generator. Well, one random number generator is int. It will generate random integers. So we could get integers from, let's say, 1 to 999. Remember what's happened. This is going to take the random number generator and take the function that takes the output of a random number generator, that is, takes a random number and creates a message, and then it will create that message, and that'll cause the update to happen. So let me do a save. And we are missing branches for all the possibilities. That is, we haven't actually written any code for receive random. Receive random gets a random number. And what do we want to do? Well, our new model is going to be that random number. And we have no commands. Let's try this. And so this now is how we can get some randomness into our program.